I am your host, Saneem bin Mohammad Rafi, and here is your YouTube channel, Zamir Universe. Today I am going to talk to you about a devil. I'm sure you must have heard, all the religious people must have heard what the devil is. And as you know, in Arabic it is called Iblis, or in English, Satan. There have been many people, and you must have come across, who always are thinking of destroying others, and there is no limit of cruelty with them. They are abnormal. They are mentally sick people, and one of them now, you in history perhaps you can count many people who Genghis Khan was one, Pharaoh, the another one. Then Hitler, Adolf Hitler, I think everyone knows about it, his atrocities and how he enjoyed following what he felt was the superior race to control the whole world. And he was adamant and would not listen to anyone. And so, I think, was the case with Pharaoh, and so was the case with most criminal people who have been, anti species. They kill their own species. And Natenyahu is some adamant person who is a Satan, but the body is that of a human, and so that is the most dangerous phenomena you would ever come across. You must have seen baboons, you must have seen monkeys, you must have seen pigs, dogs. You must have seen all sorts of animals, and you must have spitted on them and hated some of them, and maybe you had some of them as your pets. Now, what you do to a person who is stubborn, who is mentally sick? Either you listen to him and drown with him, or become as cruel as he is and start killing your own, first, and then of course you are, because paranoid personality, you are a schizophrenic, and you are a meganomaniac, and so you think everyone is the one, you must eliminate them. And I quote some of the things this man says to prove my point that he is a sick man. Now, he is not only just one single person. When you see how the Zionists, or unfortunately they are Jews, they call themselves Jews, which they are really not. They are all sorts of the scum and the dirt of the society, and when you see that right to the toddlers, to the 3 years old, you can see that what the teachers are teaching them, that the Arabs are devils, the Palestinians are devils, and they should be eliminated, they should be killed. When you cultivate such things in the ideas or in the brain or in the memories of so young generation, so you can see in 100 years that what kind of a generation has emerged now. So that proves how you find these idea of soldiers wearing the nightgowns, wearing the bras, killing them at a close range, and being proud to kill or raping the people, civilians, most men and women, and be proud, and then seeing your parliament members, the educated people, going to go and rescue them and justifying rape, justifying killing children, and portraying them as the animals. I think it's the typical example in our history, in when we are alive. As a historian, you will see is the Natenyahu, one single person against the rest of the world. The whole world is spitting on him. The whole world wants the hostages to come down, his own people. But he is stuck to his point that he wants a small piece of corridor called Philadelphia Corridor, and would not care to sacrifice the lives of over 100 hostages, because they are not his relatives, they are not his children. So he couldn't give a damn. He is not going. He just sending his horses to crush those, demonstrating, grieving mothers. And if it he had his way, he would probably kill every Israeli as well. You could listen to his own army colonel, the women complaining about the north that they can't sleep at night. Look what the neighborhood is burning. And you see the ghost towns all across 180 kilometers, and that devil is still alive and well. It's pity that nobody was taking care of him and is putting him to sleep.
You know, there's such a thing as the truth and facts, and we have to stick to it. And, you know,
it's scary.
And that is the truth. And nobody died in the Holocaust either.
No.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
It should happen. 6 million Jews should die right now because they cause all the problems in the world, but it never happened. But it never happened.
Yeah.
A very famous Jewish philosopher said something about 50 years ago that there is a Nazi mentality in Israeli society. He said then that Israel would probably not establish gas chambers or death camps, but the mentality in this society could legitimize such a thing. Unfortunately, this is exactly what we've been witnessing since the State Yemen issue erupted.
These are the words of Ofer Kasif, a member of the Israeli Knesset from the Hadash party, after witnessing dozens of far-right Israelis storm the 2 military bases in southern and central Israel in protest against the detention of 10 Israeli soldiers suspected of sodomizing a Palestinian detainee. On July 29, an investigation was launched into 10 soldiers after a Palestinian detainee was hospitalized following a brutal gang rape by Israeli prison guards at the Sidi Tamam camp. The suspects, reservists from the Force 100 unit responsible for guarding detainees, were caught on a security camera while sexually abusing the detainee. When they were arrested at the camp and later brought to a military court for a bail hearing, a far-right mob, accompanied by some Israeli parliament members and ministers, stormed the camp demanding the release of the suspects. Meanwhile, other lawmakers slammed their detention and announced plans to hold a hearing to discuss the unacceptable arrests of Israel's heroic warriors. As for Smotrich, what mattered was prosecuting the person who leaked the CCTV footage rather than the rape itself. An even more striking but equally grotesque reaction to the sexual abuse came from Hanok Milwitsky, a member of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's ruling Likud party. According to the UN, rape and sexual violence may constitute war crimes and are serious breaches of the 4th Geneva Convention, which says, civilians in areas of armed conflict and occupied territories are protected by the 159 articles of the 4th Geneva Convention. Israel also stands accused of genocide at the International Court of Justice, a charge it denies. And this culture of denial, along with open support from the public and from far-right mobs and ministers for those accused of rape and other atrocities, casts doubt on Israel's willingness to serve justice when it comes to crimes against Palestinians and reflects a much bigger problem, a culture of total impunity.
I truly believe that these events can only be understood through the prism of Israel's impunity, which they've enjoyed for decades. Because whatever war crimes Israel commits, their allies, including the US and the UK, obfuscate, they deflect, and provide diplomatic cover.
In a bid to legitimize the rape, defense lawyers for 4 Israeli reservists claimed their clients were acting in self-defense. The attorneys, Natiram and Adi Kider, are affiliated with the far-right legal organization, Honenu, which is notorious for defending Jewish terrorism suspects and illegal settlers accused of violence against Palestinians. As crowds rallied outside the military court hearings in support of the arrested soldiers, arguing that mistreating Palestinian detainees is an act of self-defense, prosecutors released 5 of the 10 initially detained reservists. Since being released just 2 days after detention, one of the soldiers was even invited to speak on pro-Netanyahu Channel 14's flagship primetime program, where he had this to say.
בשביל זה אני יושב פה, להגן עלינו, להגן על כוח 100. אני חושב שצה"ל שלנו הוא צבא בריא ביותר.
Although initially wanting to remain anonymous, the soldier Meir Ben Shetrit later revealed his identity on social media and called for public support. His call was quickly picked up by another media.
קודם כל, זה מגיע להם, זו נקמה ראויה מאוד, רק חבל שלא עושים את זה בצורה ממוסדת, כחלק מתקנון התעללות בעצירים.
In another video, the same soldier claimed that military police expressed support and gratitude during his interrogation.
שמשטרה הצבאית התייחסו אלינו ממש יפה. כן? באמת, כולם. אתה רואה את התמיכה עם יד על הלב, כאילו אומרים לך תודה.
Amid growing public support for Israel's atrocities, testimonies of Palestinians who have endured torture under Israeli custody continue to emerge, with the abuse often linked to Ben Gvir, who oversees the Israeli prison service.
قام هؤلاء مجموعة الكيتر واليماز بالدخول علينا ملثمين بضربنا لمدة 50 دقيقة وهم يضربون بنا وهم يضحكون وهناك كان التصوير المباشر كما علمت بسبب أنني أعلم وأعرف اللغة العبرية سمعتهم يقولون أننا مباشر مع ابن غفير يشير مع ابن غفير يعني مباشر مع ابن غفير.
جمعونا قدام ابن غفير. ابن غفير زارنا في النقب 3 مرات. أجا وفد مدني وابن غفير قاعد معهم في فوق وبتفرجوا كيفنا قلنا إيش الحين هذه الرسالة نوصلها لهم عن وضعنا. صار أصلا من دون ما نتفق أصلا يعني للهف الأولى كل هيتنا الشباب صاروا يرفعوا أواعيهم كلهم جرب حبوب تعرف هذا ايش كلفتنا ضرب والجمع وينسحب على الكلاب وابن غفير واقف.
There is a big apparatus where the judicial system, the executive system and the legislative system are all working to build a system that is discriminatory against the Palestinian people, and this is where Human Rights Watch concluded that Israeli authorities are conducting the crimes against humanity of apartheid and persecution.
Recent video evidence of sexual abuse at the now infamous Sidi Tamam adds to the growing body of proof that the shadowy detention facility operates as a torture camp. However, testimonies from Palestinian detainees released from other Israeli prisons also reveal the same disturbing pattern of sexual abuse, including the rampant practice of rape by female soldiers.
What is very frightening, on top of the crime itself, is that Israeli society, generally speaking, is deeply rotten. It's sick. The vicious occupation goes on, and like all occupations around the world and in history, it dehumanizes the occupied, but it also leads to the demoralization of the occupier. So this is a consequence, and I'm afraid it is not the last one. According to a document that was published by B'Tselem just a couple of days ago, there are torture camps all over Israel.
A country that stands accused of genocide at the ICJ, among countless human rights violations that likely constitute war crimes, and continues to deny any wrongdoing. A country that refuses to punish atrocities committed by its own citizens due to growing public, political, and even international support. A country that condones rape as a form of revenge that can be used against people of other faiths and openly advocates for its legality and justifies its practice. How long will Israel's culture of impunity persist?
رسالة الأسرى بقول لك الحقونا يعني انقذونا ما تمش والله يعني بموتوا جوا.
הם רוצחים, הם חיות אדם, לא צריך לשחרר אותם, צריך לראות בהם כדור בראש. קשה, משתתף בצער המשפחות, וזה כמובן גם מצטרף לאירוע הקשה שאנחנו חווים ולבשורה הקשה על 6 חטופים שאיבדו את חייהם. אמרתי, ואני אומר את זה שוב, הזכות לחיים גוברת על חופש התנועה של תושבי הרש"פ. ואני הולך לדרוש ממי שאחראי על פריסת המחסומים ביהודה ושומרון, אין דבר כזה, מספיק להתחשב בחופש התנועה ובמרקם החיים, לפתוח עוד מחסום ועוד מחסום ועוד מחסום. אנחנו רואים את הדברים לנגד עינינו. אני חושב שגם הפיגוע הקשה הזה הוא סימן למי שחושב לשחרר מחבלים. מה קורה כשהמחבלים האלה מסתובבים בשטח? הם חלאות, הם רוצחים, הם חיות אדם, לא צריך לשחרר אותם, צריך לראות בהם כדור בראש. במדינה מתוקנת, ואני מקווה חוק עונש מוות למחבלים יעבור סוף סוף, במדינה מתוקנת זה מה שצריך לעשות.
Now, what did the Jews do? When you ask what have the Germans done to the Jews, you must always ask what have done the Jews to the Germans. Since 1850, when the Jews got all the political rights in Germany, in the German Reich, they have done three things which are really dramatic. Number one, they were a small minority of 2% of the population. At the time when Hitler came to power, 500,000 within 60 million German people. 500,000 among 60 million. They were a small minority. This small minority managed to control about 50% of the media, to give about 70% of all judges, to have a tremendous influence in movie and in theater, and in literature. They were overrepresented. This is one thing. They were absolutely overrepresented, as today in England, in France, and in the United States. Second, Jews were at the origin of a lot of catastrophic financial bank crashes in Germany between 1870 and 1920. In that time, they made a lot of crashes which have, this is all documented. I mean, it's not Nazi propaganda or anti-Semitic or Arab propaganda. It's a lot of books have been published, even by Jewish Germans, about this problem. They have millions of German fathers have lost their incomes, their fortune, their savings because of these Jewish gangsters, bank gangsters and speculations people. Then the third point, which was psychologically the most dangerous of all, they have introduced into German art and culture and theater and movie decadence, immorality. The first homosexual theaters, plays, were made in Berlin in the 1920s. The first adultery theater plays were made in the 1880s and 1890s, 100 years ago, by Jewish authors. Adultery, then sexual perversions of all sorts, sadism, masochism, a lot of homosexuality, all these things, and then decadent art, you know, an art which is absolutely ridiculous, so-called modern art. It was all pushed by Jewish intellectuals, and this created among the German people a big revolt. And they wrote books ridiculing Christianity, ridiculing Jesus. I mean, it was something like Salman Rushdie with the Muslims, and they were furious.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अस्सलाम वालेकुम। इसराइल ने ये जंग शुरू की, लेकिन जो इस जंग के अंदर तबाही उन्होंने फेरी है, अब असल में उनके साथ वो जो मकाफात अमल हो रहा है, ये इसराइल की तारीख में कभी भी नहीं हुआ। इसका एक ही एंड पर हल होगा कि नेतन्याहू सरेंडर करेगा, नेतन्याहू घुटने टेकेगा तो उसके बाद इनको सुकून मिलेगा। लेकिन अब सूरत हाल है कि शायद इन्होंने गजा के लोगों को मारा, ऐसा लग रहा है कि अब इनकी जिंदगी में खौफ और बेचैनी इतनी है कि वो मौत से बदतर जिंदगी गुजारे। ये जो खातून आपकी स्क्रीन पर आ रही हैं, ये कोई आम औरत नहीं है, ये इस्राएली फौज की कर्नल है, यानी कर्नल सारिद जिहावी, ये इजरायली फौज की है। आप सोचे आम रूटीन में कोई औरत होती है तो उसका टेम्परामेंट और होता है, कोई आम रूटीन में कोई एक माँ होती है उसका टेम्परामेंट और होता है। इस खातून ने जाहिर सी बात है नैरेटिव वही देना है जो इसकी फौज ने देना है और उसने आकर बताना, लेकिन इसने 10 कदम आगे बढ़कर बात की। इसने इजराइल के मीडिया में आकर जो इंकशाफात किए, उन्होंने कहा कि कोई तस्वीर वो नहीं देख रहा जो हम गुजर रहे हैं इस वक्त तबाहकुन सूरत हाल से, ना कुछ दिखा रहा है। साथ साथ मनाजिर भी आप देखिए, यानी उसने कहा है कि हम रहते हैं नॉर्दर्न साइड के ऊपर और वहां पर हिजबुल्लाह ने डेली बेसिस पर रॉकेट्स मार रहे हैं, ड्रोन्स मार रहे हैं, तबाही हो रही है। हम लोग इतना खौफ में जीते हैं, इतना बुरा, यानी इनडायरेक्टली उसने कहा कि जी जो हमने किया था वो हमारे साथ हो रहा है। उसने कहा हम इतने खौफ में जी रहे हैं जिंदगी के आज से पहले कभी भी नहीं थी। मेरी 11 साल बच्ची है, मैं उसको घर नहीं छोड़कर जा सकती रही थी। ये इनडायरेक्टली फौज की जानिब से ही इसको आगे किया गया है और ये बताया गया है नेतन्याहू को कि देखिए फौज के जो कर्नल है, कर्नल लेवल के लोग, चाहे वो मेल हो फीमेल हो, उन्होंने हाथ खड़े कर दिए कि यार बस कर दो, हम हार गए हैं जंग, ये हम नहीं जीत पाते, आप हमें अब मजीद उस जंग में धकेलने के लिए जा रहे हैं कि अगर लट से लिबनान के साथ आपने जंग छेड़ दी, अगर उन्होंने कैदी मार दिए, देखिए एक बात मिसाल समझे, इन्होंने अगर हमास के साथ लड़ाई की, कैदी वहां पर मारे गए, फिर तो तबाही होगी, फिर उसके बाद जाहिर सी बात है वेस्ट बैंक आएंगे, वहां पर तबाही, फिर तो लिबनान की लड़ाई है, फिर यमन की लड़ाई है। फिर इस सूरत हाल में जो नेतन्याहू का प्लान है कि अमेरिकी इलेक्शन से पहले पहले मैं यहाँ पर यानी आलमी जंग का एक सीन बनाकर जाऊं, और इस सूरत हाल में उसने कहा है कि आप बताइए कि हम कैसे जिंदगी जी रहे हैं, हमें ये नहीं पता कि हम सुबह उठेंगे जिंदा होंगे कि नहीं। 1 मिनट के लिए रुके, आपको तो ये कंडीशन नजर आती थी गजा के अंदर रहने वाले लोगों की, ये तो वो नजर आती थी जिनके घर बार तबाह हो गए, इनको क्या ऐसी सूरत हाल है। ये उस खौफ में जी रहे हैं कि पता नहीं हम सुबह मर जाएं, हमें नहीं पता कि किसी के घर रॉकेट आ जाए। पहले क्या होता था, देखिए आयरन डोम, ये बड़े खुश थे, वो जी हमारा आयरन डोम, वो जी ये तो फिजा में तबाह कर देते। अब तो हालत ये होती है कि आयरन डोम तो ठुस हो गया, घरों में आकर रॉकेट मारे जा रहे हैं, घरों में आकर ड्रोन्स तबाह करें, और इजराइल का एक ही काम है हमेशा से ज्यादा उसने कह रहे हैं जी कोई जख्मी हो गया। अब एक बात,
living for that person and for those political parties.
Thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to having a thorough discussion about where everybody goes from here.
Every day, in the depth and breadth of cooperation.
The West is intimately involved in Israel's genocidal campaign in
I come to Israel with a single message. You're not alone.
I'm shocked by the lack of action of the international community. I'm shocked by the hands raised by the US ambassador in the Security Council voting against a ceasefire.
טילים, מצור מוחלט על העיר עזה. אין חשמל. אין מזון. אין מים. אין דלק. הכל סגור. אנחנו נלחמים בחיות אדם ואנחנו נוהגים בהתאם.
We have the president of the state saying
यूनिवर्सल टेलीविजन को सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलें। उसके बाद बेल बटन पे क्लिक करें और अपने कमेंट्स के सेक्शन में अपने कीमती जो ख्यालात का इजहार ज़रूर